They said building for the Veloran Empire would make me the most famous architect in the galaxy. What they didn't tell me was that it would cost me everything I had left to lose. My name is Marcus Webb, and 15 years ago my sister disappeared, vanished without a trace during a diplomatic mission to the Outer Rim. The authorities called it a tragic accident. I called it a lie. Every night since then, I've studied alien languages, customs, technologies, anything that might lead me to her. And then, 3 months ago, I received the offer that would change my life forever. The Veloran Empire wanted a palace. Not just any palace, a monument to their new era of peace with humanity, and they wanted a human architect to design it. Me. I accepted within seconds, not because of the money, not because of the prestige, but because buried in the contract documents, I found something no one else would notice. Construction codes in Veloran script that, when properly decoded, formed a star map. And at the center of that map was a single designation. Detention Facility 7. My sister was alive, and I was about to build my way to her. The Veloran capital looked like something out of a fever dream, crystalline towers that hummed with energy, streets paved with what looked like liquid metal, and a sky that shifted between purple and gold depending on the planet's 3 moons. I stepped off the transport shuttle and the weight of their atmosphere hit me immediately. Heavier than Earth, thicker. Every breath felt like swallowing silk. Marcus Webb, a voice cut through the crowd, sharp and precise. I turned to see a Veloran official, tall, with skin that shimmered between blue and silver, eyes like polished obsidian, and those distinctive cranial ridges that marked her as highborn. She wore ceremonial armor that seemed to shift with her movements. "Commander Lyra," she introduced herself. "I'll be your liaison during the construction. The Empress is eager to meet you." The Empress. I hadn't expected to meet royalty on day one. She takes personal interest in all matters of cultural significance, Lyra said, her tone suggesting this wasn't up for debate. "Follow me." The Imperial Palace made every building I'd ever designed look like a child's sandcastle. We walked through corridors lined with bioluminescent plants, past guards in armor that looked like it was grown rather than forged, until we reached a massive door that opened without anyone touching it. The throne room was circular, with a domed ceiling that showed a real-time view of the cosmos. And there, seated on a throne that seemed carved from a single massive crystal, was Empress Neera. She was younger than I expected. Maybe 30 in human years, though with Velorans who could tell. Her skin had that characteristic shimmer, but hers was more pronounced, platinum with hints of gold. She wore a gown that seemed to be made of starlight itself, and when she stood to greet me, I noticed she was exactly my height. "Marcus Webb," she said, and her voice had a melodic quality that made my name sound like poetry. "The architect who dreams in steel and stone. I've studied your work. The Mendez Tower in New Chicago, the Harmony Bridge on Mars. You don't just build structures, you tell stories." "Your Majesty," I bowed, not because protocol demanded it, but because her presence somehow commanded it. "I'm honored." "The honor is ours," she said. "This palace will symbolize our 2 cultures united. I want it to be perfect, which is why I'm assigning my daughter to work with you." A door I hadn't noticed opened and someone walked in. Time stopped. She was younger than the Empress, maybe early 20s. Same shimmer to her skin but with a hint of violet. Her hair was long and white, braided with what looked like threads of pure silver. She wore simpler clothes than her mother, but it was her eyes that caught me. They were different from typical Veloran eyes. One was the usual obsidian, but the other had a hint of brown. Human brown. "This is Princess Zira," the Empress said. "She's been studying human architecture and culture. She'll be your assistant during the construction." Zira stepped forward and extended her hand, a human gesture. "I've been looking forward to this, Mr. Webb." When I took her hand, something strange happened. A flash of recognition, a feeling I couldn't name, and for just a split second I could have sworn her expression mirrored mine. "Likewise, Princess," I managed. Over the next 3 weeks, Zira and I worked together every day. She was brilliant, understood structural integrity, aesthetic flow, the relationship between form and function. But more than that, she asked questions that went beyond architecture, questions about Earth, about human customs, about families. Do you have siblings, Marcus? She asked one afternoon as we reviewed the foundation plans. The question hit harder than it should have. I did, a sister, she's gone. Zira's expression shifted, something between sadness and confusion. I'm sorry, I don't have siblings either. I mean, I don't think I do. You don't think? She hesitated. My memories before age 8 are unclear. My mother says I was sick, that the treatment affected my early memories. My blood ran cold, 8 years old, that would have been 15 years ago, the same time Sarah disappeared. No, it couldn't be, but I started paying closer attention. The way Zira held her stylus, left-handed just like Sarah. The way she hummed when she concentrated. The slight scar on her wrist that she said she didn't remember getting. Sarah had a scar exactly there from when she fell off her bike at age 6. I needed to be sure, so I did something reckless. Zira, can I ask you something strange? She looked up from the holographic display. Of course. Do the words Bluebird Morning mean anything to you? It was our secret code, Sarah's and mine. Something we said to each other every morning before school, completely meaningless to anyone else. Zira's expression went blank. Then confused, then something flickered in her eyes, recognition, memory. She opened her mouth to speak, then closed it. Her hand went to her temple. I don't know why, but those words feel important, she whispered. Like I should know them. But I don't. Why did you ask me that? Because you're my sister, I wanted to scream. Because they took you and made you forget everything. Because I've been searching for you for 15 years. But I couldn't say any of that. Not yet. Not without proof. Not without a plan. Just something from an old Earth story, I lied. Forget I asked. But she didn't forget. I could see it in her eyes every time we met after that. The question lingered between us like a ghost. The palace construction moved forward. I embedded the coordinates in the design exactly as planned, in the support beam measurements, in the crystal alignment patterns, in the harmonic frequencies of the resonance chambers. No one noticed, except maybe Zira. These structural choices are unusual, she said one evening, pointing to the beam placements. They're functional, but there's a pattern here that goes beyond architecture. Sometimes patterns emerge naturally, I deflected. Not like this. She pulled up a larger view. Look, if you map these points they form, Marcus, is this a star chart? My heart stopped. She'd seen it. In just 6 weeks, she decoded what took me months to plan. Zira. Detention Facility 7, she read from her scanner, having traced the pattern to its conclusion. Why would you hide coordinates to a detention facility in the Imperial Palace design? I had seconds to make a choice. Lie and risk losing her trust, or tell the truth and risk everything. I chose truth. Because my sister is there, I said quietly. She was taken 15 years ago. This was my only chance to find her. Zira stared at me. You're committing treason for a sister who might not even be alive. She's alive. How do you know? Because I'm looking at her. The words hung in the air between us like a live wire. Zira's face went through a dozen emotions in seconds. Confusion, denial, anger, fear, and finally, curiosity. That's impossible, she whispered. I'm Veloran. I'm the daughter of Empress Neera. You have one brown eye. Velorans don't have brown eyes. You're left-handed. You have a scar on your left wrist you don't remember getting. You hum when you concentrate, always the same melody. It's a lullaby our mother sang to us. I started humming it softly. Zira's hand went to her head, her eyes squeezed shut. Stop, please stop. Sarah, I said her real name for the first time. Your name is Sarah Webb. You were 7 years old when they took you. You had a gap between your front teeth. You wanted to be a dancer. Your favorite color was yellow because it reminded you of sunshine. And every morning I would say, Bluebird morning, she whispered, and when she opened her eyes, tears were streaming down her face. And I would say, Phoenix night. There it was. The other half of our code, something no one else could possibly know. Oh God, she collapsed against the table. I remember pieces, fragments, a different sky, different faces. A woman with kind eyes, was that our mother? Yes. And a boy who built sandcastles and promised to build me a real castle someday. She looked up at me, her face a mask of confusion and pain. You kept your promise. You built me a palace, but it's not for me, is it? It's a trap for them. No, I said firmly. It's a beacon, a way to find you, and now that I have, we're getting you out of here. I can't just leave. She's my mother, or I thought she was. And even if she's not, this is my home, my life. I don't even remember Earth clearly. Then we'll help you remember. But Sarah, you were kidnapped. They stole you. They stole your memories. Whatever they've told you about your childhood, about being sick, it's a lie. Sarah stood up, pacing. Why would the Empress do this? I don't know, but we're going to find out. That's when Commander Lyra walked in. Find out what? She asked, her hand already on her weapon. The next few seconds happened in slow motion. Lyra's eyes went to the holographic display still showing the coordinates, to Zira's tear-stained face, to my protective stance. You told her, Lyra said, and her voice was cold. You actually told her. You knew, Zira breathed. You've always known. Of course I knew, Lyra said. I was there the day we brought you here. A scared little human girl who watched her entire diplomatic convoy get destroyed in a tragic accident. The Empress wanted leverage against Earth, a princess no one would look for because everyone thought she was dead. But why keep her? I demanded. Why not just kill her? Lyra finished. Because the Empress couldn't. The moment she saw that child, something broke in her. The Empress had lost her own daughter years before, stillborn. And here was this little girl, alone and terrified, so she did something unprecedented. She kept her, raised her, loved her, and erased her memory, I spat. To spare her the pain, Lyra countered. Would you rather the princess remembered watching her parents die, remembered being torn from everything she knew? The Empress gave her a second life. You don't get to decide that. Zira's voice cracked with emotion. I had a brother, a family, a life, and you took it from me. We saved you, Lyra insisted, and now this fool has poisoned you against us. No, Zira said quietly. He showed me the truth, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Lyra's expression hardened. I'm sorry, Princess, but I can't let this information leave this room. She drew her weapon. What happened next surprised everyone. Zira stepped between Lyra and me. You'll have to go through me. Princess, please. That's an order, Commander. The two women stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, Lyra lowered her weapon. I need to inform the Empress. No, Zira said. Not yet. I need time to think, to process. Please, Lyra, you've protected me my whole life. Protect me now. Lyra struggled visibly with this. 3 days, she finally said. I'll give you 3 days before I report this. But Mr. Webb stays under guard. And if either of you tries to leave the capital, I'll personally hunt you down. She left, leaving Zira and me alone in the deafening silence. I don't know what to do, Zira whispered. Part of me wants to run to Earth with you, to find this family I don't remember, but another part. Marcus, the Empress is my mother, maybe not by blood, but in every way that matters. She raised me, loved me. I can't just betray her. She betrayed you first, I said gently, by stealing your choice. Did she, or did she save me from a war that would have killed me anyway? Zira looked at me with those mismatched eyes. The diplomatic convoy wasn't attacked by Velorans. It was caught in crossfire between 2 other species. The Empress found me in the wreckage. Should she have left me there to die? I didn't have an answer for that. Over the next 3 days, Zira and I spent every moment together. I told her stories about Earth, about our mother who died 2 years after she disappeared, about our father who never gave up searching until his heart gave out, about the little girl who loved yellow and wanted to dance. And Zira told me about life here, About the Empress who taught her to read the stars, who held her during nightmares, who celebrated every achievement like it was the greatest thing in the galaxy. About a life that wasn't planned but was real nonetheless. On the third day, we stood in the half-finished palace, watching the 3 moons rise through the open dome. "I figured out what you should do," I said finally. "Not what I want you to do. What you should do. Tell me. Finish your life here. If the Empress truly loves you, let her continue to do so. But know your truth. Keep your memories of Earth alive, even if they're just fragments. And someday when you're ready, if you're ever ready, come find me. I'll be waiting." Zira turned to me, tears in her eyes. "You'd let me stay. I didn't find you just to lose you again to my own selfishness. You get to choose your life, Sarah. That's what they took from you before. I won't do the same." She hugged me then, and I realized how much taller she'd grown than the little sister I remembered. How much she'd changed. How much time we'd lost. "Bluebird morning," she whispered. "Phoenix night," I responded, and it felt like saying goodbye and hello at the same time. When Commander Lyra came to escort me to meet with the Empress, I expected imprisonment. Execution, maybe. Instead, I found Empress Neera standing alone in the throne room, looking older than she had 3 weeks ago. "I know what you did," she said without preamble. "Lyra told me everything." "Then you know I won't apologize. I wouldn't expect you to." She walked to the edge of the room, looking out at the city. "I committed a terrible crime 15 years ago. I told myself it was salvation, but it was theft. I stole a child from her family, because I was desperate to fill a void in my own heart. Then let her go." "I can't." The Empress's voice cracked. "Not because I won't, but because I physically cannot. The memory suppression we used, it's irreversible. Removing it completely would destroy her mind. The fragments she's recovering now are all she'll ever get." I felt like I'd been punched. "You're saying she'll never fully remember?" "She'll remember feelings, impressions, but the details, the faces, most of them are gone forever." The Empress turned to face me. "I've committed an unforgivable sin, Marcus Webb. I took your sister, I took her memories. And there is no punishment severe enough for what I've done." "You're right," I said, "there isn't. So I'll offer you the only thing I can, a choice." She gestured to the palace around us. "Finish this palace, make it your masterpiece. And when it's done, I'll ensure Zira learns the truth of her heritage. She'll have access to everything about Earth, about your family. And if she ever decides she wants to leave, I'll let her go. And if I refuse, then I'll have your mind wiped too, and you'll return to Earth believing your sister died 15 years ago. Zira will never know the truth, and both of you will live in ignorance." It was a devil's bargain, terrible and fair at once. "I'll finish the palace," I said, "but not for you, for her, so she always has a beacon to find her way home, whichever home she chooses." The Empress nodded. "That's all I can ask." I stayed another 3 months to complete the palace. Every beam, every crystal, every harmonic frequency was placed with mathematical precision and emotional purpose. The coordinates were never removed. Instead, I added more. Layers of messages in architecture. A love letter in structural engineering. A promise in stone and steel. Zira worked beside me every day. She never asked for more memories. Instead, she learned about Earth through my stories. And slowly she started to remember on her own. Small things, the taste of ice cream, the feel of grass, the sound of our mother's laugh. On the day the palace was completed, we stood together at the highest tower, looking out at both the Veloran sky and the star that was our sun in the distance. "Do you hate me," she asked, "for choosing to stay?" "Never," I said honestly. "You're exactly who you're supposed to be, both Sarah and Zira, both human and Veloran. Will you come back to visit?" "Every year," I promised. "On your birthday, I'll tell you more stories about Earth, and you can tell me about your life here." "Bluebird morning," she said, making it a question. "Phoenix night," I answered, making it a promise. I left Veloran space the next day. The Empress kept her word. Zira had full access to her history, to Earth, to everything. And I kept mine. Every year I return. Sometimes she's more Sarah, remembering fragments of childhood. Sometimes she's more Zira, deeply rooted in her Veloran life. But she's always my sister. And that palace I built, it stands as a monument not to peace between species, but to something more profound. To the idea that love isn't about possession. It's about letting someone be who they need to be, even if it breaks your heart. They say building for the Veloran Empire made me the most famous architect in the galaxy. They're right. But what they don't know is that I built something more than a palace. I built a bridge between two lives, a beacon in stone that says, "You are not forgotten. You are not lost."